Going to give it a second. Come, Mike. Good evening, everyone. As we gather for the 9th annual SALTAs, it's impossible not to reflect on just how far this market has come and how powerfully it continues to evolve. Last year, we celebrated 25 years of ETFs on the JSE, a journey that began with a quiet but bold innovation with the Satrix Top 40 ETF launched in 2000, the first ETF on the JSE and the first of its kind on the African continent. That listing marked the birth of what would become the start of a series of accessible, inclusive, and versatile investment vehicles listed by a wide range of issuers today. What followed was rapid growth in ETF listings on the JSE, and this growth story was advanced further in 2022 with the introduction of a new framework allowing for actively managed ETFs. These developments have aided in future-proofing our market, expanded investor choice, and helped to align South Africa with the global trends and local demands. And since then, the results have spoken for themselves. In 2025, the ETF market grew by 29% year on year, adding almost 60 billion rand in market capitalization. Today, the JSE proudly boasts over 130 ETFs, over 40 actively managed ETFs, and a collective market cap well over 260 billion rand. This is what a thriving, maturing market looks like, and it has been shaped deliberately and collectively by the people in this room. Your commitment continues to deepen access, drive transparency, and bring world-class investment solutions within reach of everyday South Africans. To the collaborators, ETFSA, Profile Data, the LSEG, and the JSE teams, thank you for making this evening possible. As the JSE, we remain committed to expanding this ecosystem, broadening access, introducing progressive frameworks, and ensuring that investors have a diverse suite of products that meet both today's needs and tomorrow's opportunities. Now, with that being said, congratulations in advance to our finalists and our award recipients. Your work moves our market forward, and tonight we honor you. So with that, I want to say thank you and hand over to our MC, Gareth Stobie. Thanks, Gareth.
All right, evening everyone. As you can see, you've got me this evening instead of our usual host, Narina, who extends her apologies. So that means a couple of things. It's going to be much more disorganized, maybe a little bit shorter, but I'm going to do my best to fill in her shoes. And by the way, she doesn't wear stilettos around the office, but even there, I'm going to try my best. As Adele says, welcome to the 9th edition of these awards. Next year will mark 10 years. Satrix has kindly agreed to host a black tie dinner next year, haven't you, Satrix? Or something. You're picking up some sort of bill next year. You don't know it yet. But yeah, welcome everyone. The SALTAs, for those sort of new to the awards, actually stand for the South African Listed Tracker Awards, which I suppose shows you where the origins of the ETF market are. But as you obviously know, things have expanded significantly from the early tracker funds that were on our market. So tonight is about celebrating excellence across our rapidly evolving exchange-traded products landscape. As I say, when these awards were launched, it was just about index tracking, but now we have over 230 qualifying products spanning ETFs, ETNs, AM ETFs, AMCs, but what we have deliberately excluded are the single stock notes. Those are out of scope. The growth reflects the innovation and resilience of this industry and the growing role that transparent, rules-based products, as well as increasingly actively managed but listed products, play in the savings and investment ecosystem. These awards recognize not only performance, but also skill in the form of tracking efficiency and other types of skill, and commercial success through net capital raised, not to mention the breadth of brand, shareholding and popularity by the people's choice. Together, they give us a balanced, meaningful view of the issuers, strategies, and structures driving the ETP market. And I must add that when we convene these awards every year, which awards we're going to give out and why is discussed, and that too is evolving because we don't want to just simply reward performance, although that's obviously a big part, but it is around rewarding multiple parts of the ecosystem, and hopefully that comes through in how the awards are structured, and obviously we look forward to your feedback all the while. In terms of criteria, we first look at the performance awards, total return data as calculated by Profile Data. These are based on NAV prices where available, so typically the CIS funds, and otherwise when it comes to other ETPs, the closing prices with distributions reinvested on the X date. The tracking efficiency awards can obviously only be awarded to funds that actually track a specific index, and there we've narrowed the awards just to the traditional ETFs of old. And then, as I say, all ETPs, except for the single stock notes, qualify for particularly the capital raising awards, and this is calculated using the total units in issue as per the JSE stats. And you'll know my colleague Mike pores over that data monthly and publishes a lot of industry data for the whole market on that front. In total, there are going to be 23 awards tonight. That's 2 more than last year. And those 2 extra awards are around new capital raises. Okay, so without further ado, I think we can start moving into the awards. Thanks, Adele. We've got representatives from all of our sponsors here this evening who are going to hand out the awards. Unlike how we did it last year, where we go 3, 2, 1, I'm going to go quite bluntly and tell you straight off who the winner is. Okay, so prepare your anxiety levels accordingly. So we start off with South African equity ETFs over a 10-year time span. And, this obviously recognizes decades of consistent delivery in South African equity exposure. It might not be a surprise which index has suddenly stormed to the top of some of those performance tables. And the winner of this year's award is the Satrix Resi ETF with a compounded return of 21.5%. Let's make sure this is going. I'm going to ask that you come forward here to Adele. I will read out the second and third if I believe it's sort of noteworthy. Here we had the Satrix Rafi in second place and the 10x C Top 50 in third place. So congratulations, Satrix. Okay, watch my PowerPoint skills here. I'll try and improve on that one. Got the music going? Go. Okay, great. Okay, so this is going to smoothen up here. All right, moving on to the second 10-year award. Obviously, I think one of the pleasures has been to extend the time frames that we're looking at. If you recall, a few years ago, we started with like 3 years. We're all the way out of 10 years now. For foreign and commodity ETFs, and for the first time in a long time when looking at this particular foreign and commodity category, it was the commodities that have stormed to the top of the performance tables rather than the equity categories, which have really been dominating. So the winner this year for the 10-year performance is the OneVest Rhodium ETF with returns of 30.39%. And that's followed by the Absa New Wave Silver ETF and the OneVest Gold ETF. How wonderful to be rewarding issuances for well over 10 years. I'm going to invite Ernie up to come and take over for the 5-year awards. Right, so I think we've got 6 here that we need to give out, Ernie. Starting again with the SA equity ETFs. And over 5 years, the South African equity category highlights strong sector-driven performances. And as you might have guessed, the winner is again the Satrix Resi ETF with a return of 21.62%. Interestingly, both the second and third place positions for this particular award were also from Satrix, the Rafi and FINI-based indices. Congrats, Satrix. All right, moving on to SA non-equity ETPs and looking at 5-year returns. If you cast your mind back 5 years ago, I think we actually had these awards and we were in the depths of COVID. And one of the asset classes that was really struggling in the depths of COVID was listed property. Well, no longer. That has now stormed to the top of the 5-year performance tables. So I'd like to congratulate the 10x SA Property Income ETF that claims this award. A return of 21.57%, and that's followed by 2 other property ETFs by Satrix and OneVest. All right, moving on to foreign equity index tracking ETPs, and this is where the technology stocks came to the rise again, and have really, US large cap in particular, have driven returns in many respects. And here, the winner for this year over a 5-year period is the OneVest S&P 500 Infotech feeder ETFs. This is followed by other tech-heavy ETFs like the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 by Satrix and OneVest, respectively. All right. Great. Moving on to foreign equity actively managed ETPs. So this is now incorporating both AM ETFs and AMCs. And I think this really does recognize active management within a listed form. I'd like to congratulate the UBS Excelsior Global Equity AMC, which takes the award with a return of 14.89%. Well done. Is there a representative from UBS here? Yeah. Oh, not. Okay. So then moving on, the second place there, by the way, was the ABSA SPM Global Equity and F&B Global Equity funds. I think what these particular products also highlight within the industry and the ecosystem that Adele spoke to is the shifting of client model portfolios and other use cases of these instruments for the various firms that have listed with UBS and ABSA and others. All right, moving on to the foreign non-equity ETPs with 10 qualifying products. This is for fixed income and other non-equity exposures. There's one fund here that stands out. The others aren't really worth mentioning too much, and that's the Satrix S&P Namibia Bond ETF with a return of 11.32%. The last of the performance awards relates to commodity and currency ETPs over the last 5 years. And I was sort of thinking to myself, I'm not sure what the opposite to selling the family silverware is buying a silver ETP, I suppose. And so congratulations goes to the ABSA New Wave Silver ETN, which delivered a 24.88% return over the period. Well done, ABSA. And behind the silver ETN, we had the two gold ETFs, both ABSA and OneVest, each with a return of 20.55% over that period. Well done, ABSA. Asset management is an easy game when all of these 5-year figures are 20% and 15%+ and so on. Long may that last. Right, moving on to tracking efficiency, our representative from the London Stock Exchange Group. Thank you, Ernie, from Profile Data. So here we're looking at the Tracking Efficiency Award. Obviously this award came about as we were rewarding classic ETFs that track a particular index. And so we're going to be focusing in on the old school ETFs that track these different indices. And we start with one of the most contested awards, I think, and one of the most brag-worthy ones, which is the coveted local equity one. And the winner for this year is the F&B Top 40 ETF, which is... And my colleague was helping me with some of these notes, and she wrote 0.25% ahead of Satrix, but I realized that's 0.25 of a basis point ahead of Satrix. It shows you how tight the margins get in this space. So well done to F&B. As I say, I think that's one of the more brag-worthy awards of the evening. The total tracking error there over 3 years was only 31 basis points, so well done. All right, we're now moving on to SA non-equity ETFs. Here, the top 3 fixed income and money market products all stemmed from Satrix. Well done, Satrix. With the Satrix Tracy 3-month ETF taking the category with only a 7 basis point error. So Satrix really did perform well over the whole category. Congratulations. The next category is foreign equity ETFs, and I can tell you from experience the number of hours lost to debates back in my core shares days around getting tracking error right on some of these global products when you're not only trying to track the index, but you're trying to get the currency conversion and a whole number of other factors right, and sort of when you time things and so forth. It's not as easy as it might seem at face value, but it is amazing to see just how competitive this market has become. So of the 27 eligible products, the winner for the closest tracking error here is the Satrix S&P 500 with a tracking error of only 1 basis point. 1.1, I should say. Just to give credit to second and third place here, the 10x S&P 500 in second place, and the OneVest World ETF in third place. I'm sometimes mocked in the office because I don't have an alphabetical memory of all the different fund names and share codes and stuff. You really should know all 230 off by heart, Gareth. This one I'm forgiven. The foreign fixed income segment, here, the winner with a low tracking efficiency of only 30.8 basis points, which is ahead of the Satrix Global Aggregate Bond ETF and the OneVest Global Government Bond ETF, is the OneVest ICE US TSB Index Feeder ETF. Congratulations. Well done. I'm now going to invite Mike to come up and give the awards for the capital raising. Mike, as you know, has been keeping stats on this market from day dot, and I think that data has increasingly been recognized more and more around publications around the market, which has been in itself a great asset to the industry, Mike. So well done for doing that. Okay, so moving on to capital raising over a 3-year period, and the goal, obviously, with these awards is to reward commercial traction around the products, reward a lot of the efforts that go into IPOs and different distribution strategies. It also rewards, I suppose, indirectly product choice and finding product gaps in the market. Every now and then, it also rewards people just getting their internal politics right and moving big internal assets around too. But we won't speak too much about that. When it comes to SA equity ETPs, again, representing core beta in South Africa, as one would expect, the Satrix capped all share ETF takes the award this year with a capital raise of 2.1 billion over the 3-year period. Congratulations. The other large gatherers of assets in this particular category is the 10x top 50 ETF in second place, as well as the Core Solutions top 20 ETF in partnership with Old Mutual. Right, so moving on to SA non-equity, and I think it's fair to say that one of the bright parts of the South African capital markets over the last while has been the strengthening and renewed confidence in our local debt markets, which has been great to see. I know it's given back a little bit over the last while, but that's been a good asset class. And here, the manager that raised the most in this category was the 10x CS Govy ETF, raising over 1.7 billion over that period. Like this. I should also mention that the other product that I know Chris was very involved with was the launching of the CS. This is another one of the tongue twisters. CSYSB ETF, which focuses just on the long duration part of the bond curve, and that was in third place, with OneVest taking second place in terms of the assets that they raised in local property. So well done to all of those particular funds. Right, moving on to foreign equity index tracking ETPs. And this has really been where a lot of the action has been in our market for as long as I can remember now, certainly since it opened up in around 2016 or so. And these products have continued to underpin demand in our local ETP markets. And Satrix has certainly proven to be a strong showing here across first, second, and third place. Well done, Satrix. With the Satrix World being the ultimate winner, raising just over 9 billion over that three-year period. Right, moving on to foreign non-equity ETPs. Now, if you tried to launch a foreign ETP that gave you fixed income exposure a few years ago, everyone would have laughed at you because there was no return to be found. But thankfully, global markets turned, and suddenly you could find yield in global markets. And so we saw a flurry of products. Some of these products are a bit older, to be fair, but we have seen much more assets being raised in this space. So well done to those providers. The strongest flows being awarded to the OneVest ICE US Treasury Short-Term Bond Index Feeder ETF. Well done, guys. With 1.55 billion. And that's followed by the Satrix Global Bond offering of 1.47 billion. Right, we're moving on to commodity and currency ETPs. There's obviously been a lot of action in the global commodity markets over the last while. Looking at capital raised, the OneVest Rhodium ETF claims that award for this year of 1.18 billion over the 3-year period. How many Rhodium ETF trophies do you have now, Johan? All of them. In fact, that's the second Rhodium trophy, second time the Rhodium ETF has claimed a trophy just this evening. So the little fund that could, the little commodity that could. So this ETF was followed by the OneVest Platinum, as well as the OneVest Gold products, which I think show strong distribution effort from the Standard Bank and stable. So well done, guys. Right, moving on to actively managed ETFs, where we've seen a whole lot of unique use cases coming to market. Just want to say, note of credit, I think, to the Prescient team who've really been driving a lot of this. But it was not one of their ETFs that won the most flows for this period. Rather, the newcomer, RealFin, with its fixed income AM ETF, with a 2 billion flow over that 3-year period. So well done. The new kid on the block. It is interesting and worth noting that the runner-up in this particular category is the PMX Inc. product with just under $1 billion in new assets. And I think that has really underscored this general trend that we've seen for a lot of fixed income, actively managed strategies coming to market. There's been a whole flurry actually over the last sort of 3-4 years. So that's, or 3 years, which has been great. Okay, we now move on to the AMCs, which, again, some of these names I'm less familiar with, so forgive me. But we're going to start with local AMCs, and we have 2 products here issued by UBS that had good flows, and then also a FNB portfolio. But the winner of the local AMC capital raise is the UBS Standlib Strategy 4 portfolio AMC, which raised 3 billion rand over the period, followed by the UBS Standlib Strategy 5 with 1 billion. Right, and UBS mustn't go too far away. We've got the foreign AMC category coming up next. And I think what's interesting about the whole AMC environment is all the different firm names that accompany, obviously, the UBS underpin as issuer of these notes, which again speaks to, I suppose, the vitality of the market and the different firms that are coming to market, pooling model portfolios and other types of portfolios that under the UBS banner. So when it comes to foreign AMCs, the winner in that particular category is the UBS Nedbank Private Wealth Global AMC with 2 billion of flows, followed by the Old Mutual Wealth Global Equity AMC, and then lastly the UBS FNB Global Select portfolio with capital raising of just under $1 billion. Thank you. Well done. Okay, so we've covered the, thank you, Mike. I think we're going to call Adele back up. Thanks, Adele. And we've covered all 4 product categories now across ETFs, AM ETFs, AMCs, and ETNs around, total issuances. We now look at the issuing house that has raised the most capital over that 3-year period, and this time I am going to do a bit of a count up. So in third place, we had 10X with 8.27 billion of flows. Very well done, 10X. Then UBS with 12.9 billion, representing a whole variety of underlying clients. But the ultimate winner for the issuing house total capital raise is Satrix with 24.8 billion over the period. Well done. It's about now when we put them on. It's about right now that we put them on the spot with that black tie dinner. What do you think? So let's just put the mic in front. I'm going to be sort of diverging a little bit here, but we're about to move on to the People's Choice Awards, which, as you know, is around the popularity around different ETFs and which ETFs, I suppose, resonate in particular with the retail market. And I thought I'd just share one of my observations working in this industry is that it is quite amazing to see how when an instrument lists on the exchange, Adele, how quickly the shareholder base spreads across multiple holders. And I'd love Mohammed next time just to tell us how many unit holders sit inside the fund of this perennial winner of the People's Choices Award. And I think over a 25-year period, I'd argue probably hundreds of thousands of people probably. And so it's no guess then that the winner again this year of the People's Choice Award for the local ETP is the Satrix 40. So well done. What did I say? Did I say something wrong? Right. I know that Narina was very keen to, because Satrix is the perennial winner of this, was to highlight all the runners-up and give everyone sort of a bit of a badge and say well done in that. But there generally was a very good mix of interest across the whole range. We had well over half the products voted for, and several products got a few dozen votes. But hard to bid against that one with its legacy. We might have to discontinue that if it continues on this. Give the other guys a chance. All right. Moving on to foreign ETP of the year, the People's Choice. Once again, Narina would be at pains to point out, there are a number of widely liked, widely used products that have got very good volume moving through them on a daily basis that actually received a lot of votes as well. But to give Satrix their credit, once again, their Satrix MSCI World Feeder ETF took the honors once more. So well done. I suppose this is when the marketing department gets in on the action in terms of brand value, etc., etc. Right, that pretty much brings us to a close for this evening. I hope I didn't rush that too much, but it was a bit shorter. I think from my side and certainly from all of the sponsors, a huge note of congratulations to all of the winners this evening. And just really to hone in on the sponsors, I didn't do much, by the way. I rocked up here with Narina's notes and did my best. But there is genuinely a lot of work that happens behind the scenes from ETFSA, from Profile Data, from the JSE, and from the London Stock Exchange Group in terms of putting this evening together. It's a non-profit sort of function, really. It's all about bolstering the industry and giving the industry profile, giving yourselves a bit of a pat on the back. Again, that's why Satrix is buying dinner next year. And and on that note, I'd like to invite you all for dinner and a toast and a glass of wine. So thank you and well done. Yeah.